Coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
I'm Alex Johnson, and coming up, I'll show you how a VCU community is remembering the life of a young student shot and killed just blocks from campus.
I'm Nora Deer, and coming up, I'll tell you how President Trump's new legislation could affect your internet privacy.
I'm Juan Yeris. Coming up, an exclusive sit-down interview with VCU President Dr. Michael Rau, where we talk about tuition, diversity, and crime on campus.
All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic. This is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Alexandra Sosik.
And I'm John Hood. Thanks for joining us.
Hundreds gathered in the heart of VCU's campus to remember the life of a young student who was shot to death outside a home right here in Richmond. Fellow VCU students held a vigil to commemorate Samuel Kwarteng's life, and Alex Johnson is live in the newsroom to give us a look back. Alex?
Emotional moments on the VCU campus as students mourn the loss of one of their own. 20-year-old Samuel Kwarteng, who was set to graduate this spring, was shot and killed on the 1200 block of West Moore Street, which is just blocks away from campus. A vigil was held here at VCU in his memory to remember his short yet extraordinary life.
It's just so sad, man.
Candles were lit and tears were shed in honor of Samuel Kwarteng, who touched the lives of many.
Someone who put his family first all the time, it's just a shame to see him go. But I'm thankful to have met him.
Friends.
They said I was the smartest kid I knew, man.
Family.
I didn't think it was real. I was like, what kind of sick joke are you playing?
And other members of the VCU community coming together to remember a life taken too soon.
It was on this block of West Moore Street where Richmond police found Sam shot and killed after what they say was an altercation that turned deadly.
Richmond police say the suspect, 20-year-old Emmanuel Jordan, was arrested immediately after they arrived. He is now being charged with involuntary manslaughter. But the tragedy still surrounds those on campus who knew Sam, like his cousin, who calls himself Sam's brother, Derek Ajayi.
It's just good to see that he touched other souls other than mine. I think that he just was trying to have a positive impact on anybody. I hope justice will be served.
Justice that Deputy Police Chief Steve Drew says comes from the community.
What citizens will allow to take place in their neighborhoods, that's what will take place. When citizens stand up and say, that's enough, I'm not going to allow that. We're really going to push that in the neighborhoods, in the areas where we're seeing some of that violence.
And although Emmanuel Jordan has been charged in this case, Richmond police are still investigating as to find a motive for what led to the shooting. In the meantime, they will be increasing their patrols in the high crime neighborhoods around VCU so students can feel safe. For VCU InSight, I'm Alex Johnson. Let's send it back to the desk.
VCU Health and the Richmond Police Department received a $250,000 grant that works to break cycles of violence among city's youth. A grant from the Robbins Foundation will provide resources for Richmond's youth through a new initiative, RV Alternative Pathways. In the program, high-risk youth are able to engage in classes and internships to learn from Richmond police officers and VCU health trauma experts on how to prevent the cycles of violence within their communities. Richmond Police Deputy Chief Steve Drew says through partnerships and community outreach, these initiatives offers a new approach in ending violent crimes.
I think together we can decrease our violent crime. I think that's the only way that we will, but it has to be a team effort.
To learn more about other youth engagement programs in the city, visit richmondgov.com/police. Your browsing history may now be up for sale. President Trump signed a bill into law making it easier for internet service providers to access your information without your consent. Your browsing history, app usage, and even health information are some of the things for sale to third parties and advertisers. VCU professor and internet security expert Pete Dillon says,
very simply, you probably have a Comcast or a Verizon connection in the greater Richmond area, right? So essentially it means that if Comcast wants to see my browsing history, they can.
Dylan says the best way to protect your internet privacy is to use a virtual private network and to opt out online from letting your information be sold. Internet security experts also recommend staying up to date with internet privacy laws as they change.
The U.S. Department of Education recently launched a civil rights investigation into Richmond Public Schools. The decision to launch the investigation was announced Monday, April 17th, by the American Civil Liberties Union. According to the Virginia Department of Education, black students with disabilities were almost 13 times more likely to receive suspensions than white students without disabilities. And 1 in 4 black students were suspended during the 2014-2015 year, compared to just 1 in 10 white students. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney says he supports the investigation into these allegations.
Some local Martin's grocery stores are closing soon, which is forcing customers to find a new place to shop. Last year, after a massive merger between 2 food companies, the Federal Trade Commission required that 81 Martin's stores be sold by July without a buyer and 10 local stores be shut down permanently. For students attending the University of Richmond, this could mean that the closest grocery store is now an extra mile away. Robert Cromer, a Martin's shopper, says a lot of people, including himself, don't want Martin's to close.
I think it's going to affect a lot of people because this was very convenient, the area, and just the luxury of the area where people can get here is what's convenient for them, you know, and a lot of people bank here.
Publix, one of the buyers of the franchises, plans on replacing some of the grocery stores this summer.
Former VCU basketball star Mo Alley-Cox worked out for NFL teams at his private pro day on April 11th, and now he's found a new home. The 23-year-old has signed with the Indianapolis Colts and is expected to compete for a spot on the 53-man roster as a tight end. Alley-Cox hasn't played competitive football since 9th grade of high school, but many scouts have raved about his tremendous upside at 6 feet 7 inches and 250 pounds. A former college basketball players such as Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez have had successful NFL careers, which gives Alley-Cox a fighter's chance at stardom.
We'll give you an inside look as to why protesters took to the streets of Washington, D.C. for the first ever March for Science.
And an exclusive interview. VCU President Michael Rau sits down with us to discuss increasing tuition and his opinion on free higher education.
We've never been very good at sitting still. Maybe that's why we built our campus in the middle of a city. Why we put our classrooms on riverbanks, in Fortune 500 companies, even on stage. At Virginia Commonwealth University, learning happens everywhere. What matters most is how you make it real.
You may have walked past an art installation that was up in Cabell Library, highlighting the stories of incarcerated teens right here in Virginia. Art 81, a nonprofit in Richmond, leads a project called Performing Statistics, which connects incarcerated teens with artists, policy advocates, and educators to share their stories. A jail cell simulation along with posters of resistance were displayed to give VCU students a glimpse of what life is like behind bars. The project's purpose is to raise awareness about criminal justice reform for juveniles. If you're interested in getting involved, be sure to reach out to Art 180 to learn more.
Mayor Stoney rolled out RVA Green 2050. Its goal, to reduce greenhouse emissions by 80% by the year 2050. Mayor Stoney says this plan aims for a healthier, more vibrant, economically competitive, and resilient community. According to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the new plan includes goals of energy use, alternative energy sources, energy quality, among other things. According to the Times-Dispatch, from 2008 to 2015, Richmond community emissions were down 15%.
Rain didn't stop thousands from gathering in Washington, D.C. to lead what organizers are calling a nonpartisan rally to support science-based policy. According to the March for Science website, people need to appreciate and engage with science in order for it to influence policy, saying people who valued those findings stayed quiet for too long and now face politics that ignore scientific evidence. Christy says she thinks science can help achieve equality.
Trust science, to trust life, to work for human rights, and to use all the gifts we have.
March for Science organizers are calling for people to continue to act. Check out marchforscience.com for more information.
According to a U.S. Postal Service spokesperson, earlier this month, the post office on North 25th Street in Churchill closed temporarily due to safety concerns. The closure of this post office is causing residents to travel further to get their mail. On the door of the post office, residents will find a sign with the operational hours of the mobile unit parked outside the facility. There they can buy stamps and send off mail. Joshua Builder, the property's owner, said there isn't a definite time on when the post office will be reopened, but hopefully it will be open sooner than later.
I'd like to have it open by this summer, but my company only purchased the property about 2 years ago, a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Builder says City Council and the General Assembly believe these issues can be resolved.
A telecom giant recently purchased a Glen Allen-based company. AT&T is purchasing Straight Path Communications Incorporated for over $1 billion. Straight Path Communications is one of the largest holders of 28 and 39 gigahertz wave spectrum. These waves are what wireless companies use to deliver voice and text services to their customers. AT&T will use this spectrum of airwaves to build a new 5 gig network to which will be able to provide increased bandwidth and a faster download speed. Straight Path Communications Incorporated was founded in 2013.
Our InSight's Wanya Reese interviewed VCU Health Systems and University President Dr. Michael Rau in a two-part interview.
They discussed tuition increase and the idea of free tuition in Virginia. Wanya?
Thanks, guys. I'm sitting down with the 5th president of VCU, Dr. Michael Rau. He began his career here in 2009, coming from Central Michigan University, and he also received his doctorate in higher education from the University of South Florida. So thank you so much, Dr. Rau, for being with us today. So let's just go ahead and dive into things. So tuition, this is a hot topic on campus. Everybody is talking about it. The biggest thing that we hear students talking about, there are some students who draw comparison to tuition increases to the amount of money that VCU administrators make. Sure. What do you want to say to those students who draw those conclusions?
That it's a logical thing. A lot of students do that. I think we have all done that when we were students in higher education. And tuition is a big issue. Tuition's a big issue because tuition is high. It's way higher than any of us want it to be. One of the reasons it's high is it's a direct correlation to being a state university and the impact on your appropriation, which is what the state funds the university to offset the cost. And so interestingly, we've looked at the exact amount of money on a per student basis that we have lost between 2001 and 2015. And it was exactly the same amount that tuition went up in that same time. And so we're very conscious of that and very concerned about it. One of the big things that I've done when I arrived, you mentioned 2009, we had about $3 million in student financial assistance for this institute, internally for students at this institution. And we actually have raised that to $31 million. And so that's helping to offset a lot of the costs, and it's certainly leveling off debt. With regard to administrators, I understand that as well, and those numbers are big because I face them all the time. We're competing with some of the nation's biggest, largest, most complex institutions that have tremendous talent, and we want that kind of talent, the same kind of talent that you would have at private universities. And so it is expensive, and unfortunately the market is what determines what we have to come up with, and we do.
Tuition's going up across the country. Tuition increases these days, they're pretty much inevitable. We know they're going to happen, just not how much. As you know, New York recently passed free public college for their residents who, meet a certain money requirement. Sure. So do you think that free college could be something that could be a reality here in Virginia? Do you think that's something the General Assembly would be willing to do in Virginia?
With New York taking such a bold step forward with this initiative, there's no question that every state legislature is likely to talk about it. It's a really great idea. Whether or not the idea plays out in terms of totally free tuition in every state is probably something that will be debated very heavily. So I had some experience literally 20 some years ago being in California where tuition was very, very low, and there were pluses and minuses with that, but the concept is a great one. How it plays out though may be in different ways in different states. So some states will really just go with financial aid. So they'll look at students based on how they and their families qualify based on their income for not free tuition, but aid, and they'll probably stair-step that and say, you know, for a family that makes, you know, $100,000, this is how much aid you get. For a family that's at $60,000, this is how much aid you will get, and provide those more. And so if they consider that stair-stepping, that may be where Virginia and a number of other states go. Just based on my experience, I'm certainly not going to try to influence that. If there was anyone who wanted to try to find a way to make tuition free for anyone at the $100,000 level or below in Virginia, I would certainly promote it. I don't know that Virginia has the resources to do something like that at a time like this. They'd really have to study it and figure it out.
So, I mean, I heard you say that you would promote it, but do you personally, is that something that you would like to see in Virginia?
I would like to see something that really addresses the students who have the most significant need first. Right now, I told you we took financial aid from $3 million to $31 million, but I can tell you I need $80 million. I could use $80 million today for VCU students to get them through at VCU. So I like the idea, but I also have to be realistic about how much money there is out there and what that impact would be on the impact of any program would be on our students. And if it puts our students at a disadvantage because you start running out of money, then I'd be concerned about that.
Still to come, our interview with President Michael Rau continues as he discusses diversity and crime on VCU's campus.
Also, Richmond restaurants open their doors to support local nonprofits that help families in need.
Diversity on campus, it's a big issue. A lot of students are always talking about it. So what is VCU doing to, make sure we hire some more diverse faculty, or, what are some of the challenges that you all face?
We face a lot of challenges. We face a lot of the same kinds of challenges that you have seen in things like the presidential election, where people are saying with very, very clear voices, we want to be included. I don't know of a human being who doesn't want to be included. And so we have a lot of work to do at VCU. Are we ahead of a lot of institutions? I think we are. We are certainly a model institution with regard to diversity, but I want us to be a model university with regard to including everyone and having everyone feel at every level, whether it's staff or faculty, but most importantly students, because students are at the center of our mission. And so we have a lot of work to do in a lot of areas. There are areas where we are a model and we're doing really, really well, and I think inclusion is on the fronts of the minds of a lot of my colleagues, but we have areas where it's not. And it's not playing out the way I want it to, and the way that we know we can do it. And so we have a lot of work to do, and hiring the right leader, in a place like this where it's a $4 billion organization. Diversity plays out across that entire organization, and it's really important, obviously, that I have a strong, visible, national scale, national caliber leader who knows how to make the right things happen for our students, for our faculty, for our staff. And with regard to faculty and staff, but faculty in particular, we've not only got to figure out how to hire more faculty, we've got to figure out how to make sure we retain those faculty members and mentor them and support them in every way that we possibly can. So we talk about student success, we've got to talk about faculty success as well. I want every student to feel like they have seen the broadest imaginable range of people they could as their professors, right? It's just as if the world comes to them in this microcosm that we call VCU. And that then will prepare them for the kind of diversity and roles that they need to play in inclusion.
As you know, recently we had a shooting off campus where a VCU student unfortunately lost his life. The following day, there was another shooting around the same area. How are the VCU police and the Richmond Police Department working together to make sure that not only students who live on campus are safe, but also students who live off campus are also safe in their respective neighborhoods?
Absolutely. So it is a really critical partnership. And I would tell you that in an urban environment, you certainly hear some of the stories that you hear. And of course, we err toward disclosing everything we can, particularly that which is off campus, because we recognize the reality that our students just don't stay on campus, right? They also live off campus. They go off campus for various reasons, and their safety is number one. Even if it isn't good for PR, we do what we need to do. No one, I don't care who says this, they cannot possibly fulfill it. No one can say to you, you will be safe no matter what on X campus or Y campus or in X city or Y city, or even if that city is 500 people, you can't guarantee it. I'm not saying I like that, I'm saying it's a reality, and the more I spread reality, the more I encourage people to be vigilant and take full responsibility for their own safety, the better off I am. The other thing we're doing, of course, is cameras, body cameras, cameras around. We have actually solved our crime rate in a very interesting way. When I came, it was tremendous. I obviously went very public in saying that I've had it with the crime issues. And so one of the things that we did is we invested a lot of money in cameras. And we pretty much have pretty close to a 100% crime solve rate on campus now. And I think people know, if I'm going to be seen on camera, I probably shouldn't go on that campus, right?
All right then. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rau. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We've been sitting down talking to President of VCU and VCU Health Systems, Dr. Rau. We're going to send it back to the studio.
One VCU fraternity has raised almost $100,000 over the past 6 years for a local burn center. VCU's Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity held their 6th annual Fireman's Challenge to raise money for MCV's Evan Haynes Burn Center, the only verified burn center in Virginia. Pike raised $30,000 at last year's event, and their goal was to raise $40,000 this year. Shai Derekia, a member of Pike, says this event means a lot to him because they're actually able to see where the money goes.
We've gotten toys and equipment for both pediatric burns and other burn equipment as well. So we've really seen the impact we've been making in a very short time.
The week-long challenge all led up to the main event held at the Carey Street Fields, where VCU sororities and women's athletic teams competed against each other in different activities, all while trying to raise money for the burn center. Alpha Gamma Delta won the overall event, raising $4,000.
Another film set will soon make its way into the Commonwealth, as the feature film Juanita is set to shoot in Bedford and Petersburg this spring. A Petersburg native, Blair Underwood and Alfre Woodard will star in the upcoming drama, which is based on the novel Dancing on the Edge of the Roof. In a press release regarding the film, Governor McAuliffe noted the economic benefits of filmmaking in Virginia, such as Juanita, will bring more jobs to film industry workers here in the Commonwealth.
Oscar-winning director Ezra Edelman sat down for a Q&A at VCU's Gray Street Theater to talk about his critically acclaimed 5-part documentary called O.J. Made in America. Episodes 4 and 5 of the documentary were shown from noon to 3. Edelman then sat down for a Q&A with moderator Nicholas Froster, a visiting lecturer and scholar from Yale University, and afterwards Edelman took questions from the audience. The Academy Awards has since changed its rules for preventing multi-part limited series from being nominated for consideration.
Shortly after former Rice head coach Mike Rhodes took the VCU head coaching job, the future of Rice basketball star Marcus Evans took a new direction. The first-team All-Conference USA guard transferred to VCU instead of other schools on his list, such as the University of Arizona and the University of Miami. The Rams are getting a dynamic scorer who averaged 19 points per game last year, while leading Rice to 23 wins. Evans will have to sit out the upcoming season due to NCAA transfer rules. Food lovers all over Richmond gathered to support a local nonprofit that feeds Richmond families in need. Richmond was named an up-and-coming city by Condé Nast Traveler magazine last year, and they're living up to the honor with a number of events being held around the city that aim to highlight food around Richmond. Over 500 people attended Taste of Richmond, an event hosted by the Richmond Times-Dispatch at the Omni Hotel. Everyone there was able to try food from almost 40 different local food vendors. John Sucker, the CEO of Core Foods Innovation, says, "This event has been a great way to showcase the different food options Richmond has to offer."
This is an all-time high for the restaurant scene in the city.
A part of the proceeds from the sold-out event went to the organization Feed More of Richmond. Every year, the Society of Professional Journalists selects student journalists and programs for prestigious awards for the previous year.
Capital News Service and the Commonwealth Times had many finalists in a variety of categories, but Gio Murader won for general news photography. Eleanor Flank won for online opinion and commentary for the Commonwealth Times. WVCW Radio won for the Best Drama, Best Artist Interview, and Best Variety Program for their chalkboard sessions. And we are excited to announce that VCU InSight was awarded Best All-Around Television Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic. And that does it for this edition of VCU InSight.
Make sure to check out our website at insight.vcu.edu.
You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under VCU InSight. Contact us with any stories you'd like to see on our show.
And if you missed our show or would like to watch it again, you can find us on YouTube at VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm John Hood.
And I'm Alexandra Sosick. We'll see you next time.